Baby, you know how it goes. It gets lonely in this bed alone. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Baby, you know how it goes. It gets lonely in your bed alone. Pull up.
All right, welcome back, Power fans. We missed you for a while. Myself and E-Dot Everly. So we're back once again to go ahead and wrap up the newest installment in the Power Books. And this is Raising Kanan. So as E feels, it started off kind of slow. I thought it was kind of rock 'em and sock 'em. What do you think about that, E?
Honestly, I didn't really like the way it started. I don't think I actually liked the first maybe 15 minutes or so of this episode. I do understand now, having finished the episode, they needed a little bit of time to kind of set things up and really, depict his character, young to starting to grow up. But I definitely thought this episode started off a little on the slow side, and it was just him getting beat down and running home. And that's not something we would expect from Kanan. At least I would not expect from Kanan.
Well, everybody's got to start somewhere. So Ty and Antoine just beat the best out of him and took his money in the middle of the playground. And then they had a third guy holding back jukebox. So, it wasn't an average situation. It was definitely a jump to start with. We find out later on in life that he handles jumps quite well. This time, he was just starting off. And definitely got his butt whipped. But you got to see, he showed heart in this particular scene. He was coming back until he was pretty much KO'd. I was going to check his eyes and see if there's any type of brain dead or anything.
There was a line that his mother said. It really resonated with me on where she was and the son that she was going to raise. And it said, deal with them or deal with me, but there's no running if you're dealing with me. So...
Been there, done that.
So, like I said, I'm pretty sure they call it a sock with a lock. That's what
I think there's a glass bottle going there. I was like, okay.
There's a lot of stuff in that sock, okay?
And the scene also shows a little something extra, man. It's like, when he was rolling up in there, he was going to do battle, and he was not a quitter to start with. He quit when there was no hope of getting anything done. And then he came back, he had a little armament on him and whatnot. And he just kind of got vicious with it. And he listened to his mom. Now, maybe that might change a little bit, but right then he was listening to his mom.
No, he just knew that he wasn't going to be able to survive in that household if he didn't go back out there and do what he had to do.
So that was out of fear.
Exactly. That was not out of want. He ran away. He did not want to go back there. That was mom saying, look, you're not coming back in this house without getting your money back.
It's the principle.
Exactly.
Now, in between time, when he came back home running and screaming and crying, we met High Post. Now, High Post was her man at the time. It looks like he taught her the game a little bit, but that's what I thought. But then we got a little bit more information a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, kind of as it turns out, she's really the running the game now that her man, who's Kanan's father, is now out of the picture.
Right. So High Post maybe was teaching her the game, but at the same time, probably working for her at the same time too. So
yeah, he definitely was underneath of her for sure, as far as the organizational structure and things like that. She was at that point in charge of the game.
And we like Mary Jane's character a little bit on the Ghost Book 2 joint, but she is fire. So then all of a sudden we just shift forward in time. We go to the school, and now we see what her real ambitions are. And it kind of revolves back to the whole ghost theory from the very beginning about trying to escape your surroundings and try to better yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's what his mom is trying to do for him. And just like Ghost was, it's like, this is the sacrifice I'm making for you, and you better pay attention to it. So is he really following that or flowing with that or not?
No, I think he has too many outside influences. He's got his friend Famous, who doesn't really have, his best interest at heart. He's telling him, go in there, bomb that test, come on back here. You don't want to be with them. Obviously, as we see later on, he probably should have gone, taken that test, done well on it, gotten into that school, gotten out of this game. Because of some things that transpired down the line. As a slight interjection, I would also like to say I think we love this character a lot more than I loved Mary J's character. Mary J didn't come off as believable to me. Kanan's mom comes off as believable.
So next thing we know, we're popping up and we get a little taste of what Jukebox is about and why she's actually called Jukebox.
Girl can sing.
Yeah. So she was blowing. I was quite impressed.
That was she was. I was as well.
Now we flash forward to one of the most hilarious scenes in the joint, and it wasn't a lot of humor in this, to be honest with you. But as running up against Davina, who's his heartthrob, that's his Angela and whatnot, the very first one, you know, that he was in love with from the very beginning in the cafeteria, and she seems to be throwing some flavor his way. Don't you think? Talking about how pretty his mom is.
Oh, she was definitely shooting her shot, but going and playing the field on the back end. Because, you know, we saw she was all hugged up with the other guy as well right after. I think, you know, Kane is that guy she wants to be with, but can't get over a little bit of his social awkwardness and, you know, to realize what's actually happening.
And he's the brainiac. He's the guy, you know, who, whenever you're the smart kid in class, people kind of shy away from you and whatnot.
Exactly. Whereas there's these other guys that are, you know, they're going at her, shooting their shot because she's, you know, very attractive young woman. And so, you know, the athletes and things like that are probably the ones that are trying to have her on their arm. But, you know, it's obvious that she wants Kanan, but Kanan's got to actually step out of his comfort zone a little bit.
So meanwhile, he's getting all distracted. And to me, it's one of the funniest scenes in this whole episode. Looks like there's Sam Jackson with the blonde fishnet on top of his head, the cafeteria lady. And she's like, say what again? And I'm like, it's about to be on. So anyway, so they move on into the joint. And we get to see, you know, his whole team and whatnot after the little flirting period goes on. We take a look at Davina's real man at the time. It's $120. And he's rocking that 8-ball jacket. And man, back in the day, the 8-ball jacket was as amongst New Yorkers, because I really think, always have thought that's some New York Bama shit. And I got love for New York dudes, man, and chicks. You know, you guys are like second or third people, but I'll be honest with you, y'all come with the New York Bama shit sometimes, and that was New York Bama shit. I'm sorry.
That is 1,000% New York Bama shit. Like, 1,000%. Never worn an 8-ball jacket a day in my life. Okay, I'm gonna let you know that right now. Don't own one, never wanted one, never asked moms for one, never bought one when I had my own money.
Yeah, man. So they go ahead and they like Jukebox try to talk some sense into him and whatnot, and you know, it is what it is. He's like, I'm not letting go. And then we got our taste of Puerto Rican famous. So your boy spits a line with your boy D on the beat, you know, on the lunchroom table beat. And we're gonna find out a little bit more about D later, but not a lot. But Famous is spitting it, and my favorite line in that whole spit was I be shooting niggas like my name was Spike Lee. So I was like, all right, I like that one.
I think my favorite line of the entire scene was when Jukebox came in and said, that wasn't your worst rap yet.
Nice comeback. And if you know, it's like they're the Abbott and Costello of this whole team going on here, because he's always coming up front, and then she's always shutting him down and bringing him back into reality. So it's so hilarious.
But can I say this though? Until they gave a little bit more of his more of his like heritage and background, I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little bit irritated with his use of the N-word when he was so racially ambiguous. I had no clue what he was. He could have just been a white boy with a nice haircut. Like, I had no clue. And it was kind of like, you know, why is the most racially ambiguous person at the table the one throwing this word around like it's okay?
Well, that's because you didn't know Puerto Ricans in the 80s. So the real deal is Puerto Ricans in the 80s, brothers are like Puerto Ricans in the 80s with a tan. There is no difference between the two of them. Both of them contributed heavily to hip hop.
No. I agree with you. I'm just saying, before they gave that background, look, at the end of the day, okay, we can all just agree on something, okay? It was nothing but just a different stop on the boat, okay? Like, we are all very similar. We all came from the same place, and it was just a different stop on the boat. If you look at our heritage from the beginning, we are not that far apart. So once they said he was just Puerto Rican, and I was like, okay, cool, it's fine. Like, but I'm just saying, when they hadn't discussed like who he was, it was like, wow, he's at a table full of everyone who I can pick their race out very easily. Him, I have no clue what he is. He's the only one out here running off, spouting out the mouth.
I knew he was Puerto Rican immediately. Because I just know so many cats. I know so many cats from that era with that look. Knew he was Puerto Rican immediately. That Puerto Rican brother from the 80s is more Puerto Rican than Puerto Rican brothers are now.
I was born in 90s, so sorry I didn't get to witness the 80s, so I didn't know that was a Puerto Rican brother from the 80s. My bad.
So moving forward, they over there, they're playing a Street Fighter. Juke is once again, as she does in every scene, proves that she's the hottest nigga in the room. She just totally smashing Famous and whatnot. And then D conversates a little bit with your boy Kanan, and they're looking outside and they're checking out Unique, who's the biggest drug dealer in New York at this point in time. All the flashiness, got the 740 Beamer and whatnot, bulletproof and whatnot. So, then they happen to notice that Buck 20 is hanging in his presence. That means something. Buck 20 is the guy that, guy that has Davina's attention, and we know how we know how Kanan feels about this. And he also knows that that's his family's rival. So I mean, there's a lot of emotions all kind of going into that scene right there. In this environment, unfortunately, it was the family. I mean, it wasn't the family situation that was top of mind. It was, I love me some Davina, and that's the dude that's got her attention right now. And I'm too shy. So then we shoot forward. We go to the club where they're trying to do a little bit of business with the owner of the club. And then your girl, hopelessly blonde or whatever, legally blonde, is standing up there in the way with her little pocket dog. Now, let me say something. Little dogs, I'm cool with, except Chihuahuas. Big dogs, I love them too. Middle dogs, I love them too. But I'm never fond of the pocket dog. That little it was a Pomeranian. I want to say right now, I love my dog, and this episode, as we're going to talk about later, kind of hurt me a little bit because it was very wild and cruel what happened to that dog. She was wild and rude, and we're gonna find out later why she felt like she had that much, that much control and that much power over the situation. But I would have never expected her character to wield itself in that manner until she started speaking. She just doesn't understand. Those things come with consequences. Mm-hmm. You can't talk to a murderer and a killer and a drug kingpin crazy and think that it's going to go unscathed. Yep. And then she put her in check, and she was still like, you better get your sister. I'm not the average white, scared little white girl. I've been running anywhere. Yeah, we're going to come to it. But basically she goes over to the bar to try to chill out a little bit, and she meets my man, Suave Bolo, Tiffany. So he stepped right out of a bottle of rum, laying it on her thick. She's eating it up. He's an urban planner. She's like, I'm urban. I like to plant. And I was like, okay, we got a little flirtation going on here. What's going on there, man? They got the heat going on already. They just met. No, they definitely did. And I'm not sure of the angle that whole situation is going to play out as. We know the writer of this show. Okay, there's no way that this is just some random unnecessary love fest or, some dates and things like that. Like, there's always meaning behind things in this show. Definitely some flirtation. I think she was also mad. And I think he kind of liked that slight aggression side to her that he was able to see. I also think he didn't like that white girl at all. And so when she put her in check, he was like, okay, I like her. There you go. Well, here's the thing that's wild about it, because there's way more to her that he would be attracted to, because she's mad intelligent. Remember, she was talking about Cassiopeia. She's a plotter and a planner on this level, but she's also highly intellectual. Have you noticed, and this is a bit of a tangent though, but have you noticed that a lot of the symbols and relationships and things that we've seen play out even just through this first episode of Raising Kanan, have a lot of the same implications and plannings of the original show, Just Power? Yep. It's almost as if Kanan and Ghost grew up in the exact same situations. I could see Angela being Davina and Ghost having to overcome that to get her down the line, but that's his Angela, right? Same kind of concept.
and just a lot of the other things. You know, you see Kanan's mom trying to get Kanan out of the game, which is the same thing that Ghost tried to do for Tariq. I mean, it's literally, it's almost as if we're watching Power, but just through different people and through different interpersonal relationships.
Now that shows a little bit of lack of creativity, and I do understand where you're going with that. Okay, so Davina, as you're right, she definitely brings up a lot of the Lauren Velez character, Angela. And if you see in the next scene, we got somebody else who brings up another level of the Angela character. We got your boy walking up on them, first of all, at the diner, you know, that famous diner that's going to be there every Wednesday. And do you remember their name?
Lamont's Diner, wasn't it?
Hey, man, don't sleep on that hospital applesauce.
Never have. I live in a hospital, trust me. I've had a lot of hospital applesauce, okay?
And that's how we got introduced to Marvin early, because he couldn't stop eating. He took his boys. He's sitting there with a bullet hole through his leg. He ate his applesauce. But let's go. I digress. Let's go forward. And we see the sweater, and it's the same sweater we saw from Lulu earlier. But it's coming into play in a minute. But then, of course, your boy, Mr. Frontin, famous, he comes up and he's like, oh, you know, we don't want to intrude or anything like that. No one, he wants to chow down with the fam. And your boy Marvin shuts him down with that stuff, and they like tell him to come on, sit down and whatnot. And Jessica gets introduced. That, to me, is Angela Valdez.
I completely agree with you. Like I said, I think what we're seeing is a production and a writing crew that are out of ideas. And so what they're saying is, oh, we're going to throw in familiar things because it's going to keep you intrigued. To me, the introduction of Jessica into the situation was a little bit frustrating because you just brought another Hispanic woman who is now under the guise of another African-American man who saved her life. And now she's like, oh my God, that's the nicest thing someone's ever done for me. Okay, so we all know where that's going now.
But she was feeling him before that, though.
She was feeling him before that. But like saving her from the drive-by that happened, which if you watch the video, they actually were shooting into the air. It was a scare tactic. They were not shooting at anyone, right? Now she's hooked, right? That's Angela, all reincarnated. Whereas the same thing is, I personally believe that Davina was Angela as well, but down the line. We got Angela as a young woman, and we got Angela in, you know, her grown environment getting introduced into that lifestyle.
So, well, right now, where we're at in the character story, basically we have Angela split into two pieces.
Yes.
So what the hell are they going to do when Angela comes up later on in this series? Childhood Angela. That's her whole vibe. They've taken away her whole vibe. Her whole personality's been split in two, and that's those two characters, Davina and Jessica, like you said. So what are they going to do with the real Angela?
Not sure if they've even written that far in advance. But what I will say is that, you know, I think they are potentially creating some conflicting characters, some characters who, if they have to share a scene with each other in any capacity whatsoever, are going to be two of the same people. I think they're going to have to, unfortunately, get rid of some of these characters. So I don't think some of these characters are going to be able to make it. I don't think the Davinas, I don't think that the Jessicas are going to be able to make it because they compete so hard with the exact same character as Angela. Just like I don't think Kanan's mom can survive for as long as this is over with, when you consider the fact that she's essentially just Ghost. And Kanan is nothing but Tariq.
Well, I mean, I got to totally argue with that. And that Tariq was a bit of a brat early on.
Tariq was a brat, but that's because he grew up in money, downtown New York, like you know what I'm saying? But if you really think about it,
Kanan is growing up with money, man. So throughout this whole,
he still lived in the hood. He lived in the hood.
Throughout the whole first episode, you see him with gold chains, you see him with Tommy Hilfiger, you see him in North Face. You know, he's coming with those the money right there, bro.
Greg, there's a difference between living in a house in Jamaica, Queens, and living in a penthouse in downtown Manhattan. Okay, there's a difference.
You saying he's feeling his environment and not just his riches.
Exactly. He's feeling his environment. He doesn't have the riches because, as we know, it's very difficult for drug dealers to actually use that money for something profitable because Ghost had a club that he could launder that money through. Kanan's mom does not have that avenue currently. That's the reason why they are still living in the hood in Jamaica, Queens. Like, that is the reason why she doesn't have that source. Doesn't mean that she's doing the same thing. She has a son who's growing up in this environment, who she does not want to be in this environment. It's a very similar storyline.
So going forward, we have another conversation between Mom and Rock and Kanan. And I thought was pretty cool because one thing I thought is pretty cool is like basically the 5 percenters in New York. And it's kind of like a subsect, and I'm probably going to get assassinated from saying the wrong thing tonight. But basically it's like a subsect of the Muslim religion, but at the same time, they believe in fighting, fucking, and drugging. So it's like, you got the cats with, who's it? Wu-Tang, a bunch of other cats out there, Rakim, and they talk the mathematics stuff and the wisdom and understanding and the knowledge and all that. Okay, so now we move forward a little bit. We see the actual meeting in the park. The first meeting we see between Unique and Rock, and they were going back and forth on it a little bit. They're talking about the situation that previously existed. We hear about DEF CON. Who's DEF CON?
Kanan's father. So who's,
there you go. So
obviously no longer in the picture.
So maybe him and Rock started the show together. Maybe he taught Rock what she knows. Maybe they helped each other. Maybe Rock taught him what to do. He was the dummy and whatnot. Who knows? Maybe she was controlling all the action. But basically, they have a little discussion in the park about how things are different now. And she went ahead and seized forward on some corners. And at the same time, she seized forward on the corners. It's like, dude's like, okay, well, why'd you do that without even discussing it with me? So then they come to a little bit of an agreement. So she gives up one of the corners she seized, and they decide they're going to split stuff. And he's like, Unique is like, why are you taking one more than me? She's like, you shot at our people. So basically, it seems he's actually kind of amicable at this point. And, he's a big New York man. I'm sorry. We're back there again. But, the gold fronts and the fur coats and whatnot, and the big fly gold, slick rig jewelry. But at the same time, he seems to be a good businessman up until this point. Your boy, Kanan, hears from D that one of the corners that his mom used to be on with her people is being taken over by Buck 20, who we already know is representing for Unique.
That's a huge issue, honestly. And I think that there's a ton of shadiness that, we're kind of starting to see in this situation. And obviously there was a little bit of lack of information dissemination. Kanan, took the actions that he took because he said, oh, okay, I'm going to look out for my mom. I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to make sure that, her territory, they're not supposed to be on this block. So I'm going to go take care of it because I see they're not supposed to be on this block. And he had no clue that block had been given up. And we see the ramifications of that.
We got from here to there because Kanan is a very intelligent kid. Extremely. And he understands the secret language that they're talking. But unfortunately for him, they don't talk around to each other around him enough for him to get the whole picture of stuff. And he is the whole knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and all these things mean different numbers. And that's what they call mathematics. And with all that going on there, he thought he knew the mathematics, but he didn't know the mathematics. And that's where he ended up where he was at. So he sees your boy Buck 20, and he goes and he blows him away in broad daylight.
Drop the ball, baby.
The real issue is that, Unique didn't tell anybody that she had given up that territory, because when it was found out that she had given up that territory, everybody had an issue. She conceded something, knowing that, she had to concede something, but then didn't tell anybody about it because she knew she was wrong. And she just didn't expect Kanan to be the one, to enforce it. Because if anybody else enforced it, she'd just been like, all right, well, man, you took him out, But now that it's Kanan, that's her son, she knows the repercussions that are coming. Now all of a sudden, she has to divulge that she gave away that territory.
And we go to the bonus scene with the girl, the skinny white girl. She's doing her thing, and with the club owner, I would assume. And then she goes, and it's your favorite scene. What happens? She smells something. What's going on? Come on, you're gonna have to say it. I'm gonna make you say it.
She finds her dog in the microwave, and that was a very disturbing scene for me. That she found her dog in the microwave. So I'm extremely shocked that she ordered it, you know, because we see the scene later on where Rock is getting the dog collar handed back off to her. And he said it was medium well.
Extra crispy.
But it was, I was extremely shocked, honestly. I think there could have been a little bit of diplomacy that could have happened prior to going to that extent, because, you know, I know how I personally feel about my dog, and I know how a lot of dog owners feel about their dog. Guess what? You put my dog in the microwave, look, trust me, we got a whole safe full of them. It's gonna be a problem. So, you know, I think that went a little far for me.
But do you see how they try to play two sides of the same coin with that? Because you got that, but then remember the older gentleman was walking his dog down the street who had a tumor on the spinal cord, and so he had to use a little wheelchair, the doggy wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And Marvin was like, you know, never abandon your fam. They're actually showing some animal loving, and they're showing some animal cruelty at the same time.
Yeah, they thought that they were going to buy themselves some semblance for what was coming later. But I don't think that they did enough. You put a dog in the microwave.
Let's get out of that zone. When Kanan shot Buck 20, and you know he died in front of him and stuff, there was somebody who's usually the voice of reason, and she was not there. Who was that?
So Jukebox wasn't there. I mean, and honestly, it's funny. I was waiting for it to happen. I was waiting for there to be a LGBTQ plus reference in the story. In today's society, with diversity and inclusion, we know that there will be a reference because that's what will happen. Now, you know, that's we have to be diverse and we have to include. So in a show that is predominantly African American, unlike the normal, you know, we talk about the token black guy, but we have the token white girl. So, you know, we're kind of like the opposite here. We got the token white girl, but then we also have to be inclusive. So that was our LGBTQ plus community reference, was the fact that we now found out that Jukebox, you know, found herself a girlfriend. So while she was off doing that, this is what was going on. I firmly believe that this will come up later in a different fashion, because as we saw, she said she was at choir practice, and Kanan looked at her like, no, you weren't. You know, he looked at her like, no, you weren't. Like, I'm not going to call you out in front of everybody, but we're going to have a conversation about this in the back end.
Now, meanwhile, while your boy is blowing his entrance exam that he could have easily aced by putting all the B's on the answers, your girl is out with Symphony, and he's like, seems to be a real conscious character. He is actually talking about this architect that just totally racially destroyed neighborhoods and had like people of color thrown out on the streets.
As we're talking about, you know, basically gentrification is what he was referring to, and that there's ways to gentrify certain areas and ways not to. We're actually seeing this play out right now in DC. There's been a ton of gentrification, which has forced a large number of people into a smaller area. And, you know, we're seeing a ton of gun violence in DC right now. So I just wanted to give that headline. There were children that were killed over this weekend due to gun violence. And, you know, it's not right. It's not something that should be happening. It's partially due to gentrification. It's partially due to just inherent violence. Yep. It's partially just due to taking a large number of violent individuals who were spread out and could go amongst their own, you know, recognizance without seeing other people, now being pushed into a smaller area that they can afford. So we're seeing a lot of that happen. But sorry, I digress.
But meanwhile, Kanan is just like, he's just making all these steps to get in a different direction. Now, he's conflicted though, right? because with the conversations he's having with his mom, basically, with his mom, he's like telling her, like you're giving me mixed signals here. You want me to go to the school, but then you seem to want me around, and it's like there's a push and there's a pull. And he's kept you confused as a kid, and it makes sense that he would get confused from that. Where we end up, we're in a situation now where there's the bounty on all the kids' heads who were involved. They have to have a little parlay with Unique again. Unique is like, I want all the corners. Now, is Rock's character really going to sit back and take that?
She's willing to stand there in front of drug dealers with nobody else around her. Some of the, most cold-hearted killers in the world. And like she told that guy, she said, I didn't blink. At the same time, she's also trying to look out for her child. I mean, and Unique said it best. She's like, I love my son, but I didn't birth my son. That's a connection and a bond. That's a connection and a bond that you have that I could never have.
You carried Kanan in your body for 9 months.
Yep.
That to me was like, that was the most poignant thing said during the entire 3 books so far.
Yep.
That was incredible. Look who it's coming from. Like I was saying, I was telling about Unique earlier, man. It's like, he does what he has to, but he doesn't seem like the typical villain. Hey, look, here's what happened. You shot our corner boy. I got to come back at you. You know what I mean? He's doing that. But, I mean, he could do a lot worse. But he is trying to keep the peace and whatnot, believe it or not. So, of course, it's going to be to his favor. But at the same time, he doesn't seem like such an asshole. He's doing
his level-headed best to realize that he wants to win, obviously, but he doesn't want to win at the expense of a war. Your son started this war. I'll take the bounty off of him, but you're going to give me this. And I'm still going to tell you, I cannot promise that somebody else will not take matters into their own hands.
I think that was some bullshit.
I agree.
I mean,
but I would have never agreed. I would have never agreed. I would have said, okay, cool. The agreement stays the same way that the agreement is. So if you're not gonna red light my son to the point that he's untouchable, you're not getting that territory.
So Steve Spurrier, that's where she's going with it, because she did the Steve Spurrier move in the middle of the night. She took him to coach him up. She took Kanan to the beach to coach him up.
Yeah.
And she's like, you wanted to be in the game? Now you're in the game. You got to learn how to control and protect yourself and whatnot. You're in the game.
But I would have said right then and there, look, if my son is still going to be fair game, those blocks aren't yours.
There you go. That's what's up. So that's what's going to happen, man. We know Rock already. She's not going to fade like that. And we also know the rest of the family. They're not going to fade like that. Marvin's not going to fade like that. Lulu's not going to fade like that. And they're just going to bring another soldier into the posse. She didn't get a chance to make these other soldiers. These other soldiers came to her and she could mold them a little bit, but they were already partially molded. But she can mold Kanan from clay. Killer time. Can
I tell you a line that definitely resonated with me and really, kind of ended the episode in a manner. And the line was, there ain't no escalator or school that's gonna save you. Meaning you can send them away if you want to, but they're coming after him.
So here it is. It's about to be on.
It is.
Yeah, and they're coming to get him. If you see from the coming episode, they're coming to get him.
Yeah. No, they are. They're not playing around with him.
It's about to get heated in the second episode only. So I'm digging it so far. What you think?
Like I said, first 15 to 20, wasn't the biggest fan. Kind of felt like something that was being drug out just to keep us hooked. Definitely saw where they were going with it. Like I said, it started slow, definitely picked up. I think we're going to see a very action-packed season right now. They're priming us for extreme amounts of action. The one thing that kind of takes a little bit of the suspense out of it is that we know how long Kanan lived, right? So we know that no matter how crazy any of this action and suspense gets, in his younger formative years, we know that he survived.
Yep.
But
he's the only survivor.
Yes. He's the only person we know survived. So,
and guess what, though? That includes Unique.
We know that he survived, and we know that he comes out as a stone cold killer willing to kill his own son. And which is crazy considering what we now just saw, where if Rock had killed Kanan in that moment, the beef would have been over with between the two of them. between her and Unique.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna find out eventually. But I think it all changed for him when he, got ratted on by Ghost and Tasha and went away. Remember, he was actually saving people in the jail. In other words, he was a monster. And we saw when his fight scenes when he got out, he continued to be a monster, but he was made a monster when he was in the joint. And he just thrived. Yeah. So, his whole mind state is just different. All right, man. Well, it's been another fascinating episode and good talk about it. So we're going to see you on the Power Watch.
Appreciate you.
So he sees your boy Buck 20 and he goes and he blows him away in broad daylight. You're supposed to say rock block, baby.
No one knew.
You're supposed to say rock block, baby. Come on, say it.
Rock bottom.
Rock a block, baby.
Rock a block.
Oh, he's like, what I'm going to tell you, baby. It's metaphorical. It's not serious. All right. So anyway,
what I'm gonna tell you is like the real issue is that